But what I was told by somebody I know in the DOJ is that a lot of these people have ambitions and want to rise to the ranks of being in the cabinet someday or working in one of these agencies. The issue is you need to be Senate confirmable, and nobody wants a bad tweet being pulled up in front of them in front of the Senate. I went over to the Capitol Hill area and I got a chance to meet with Joe Gruters at the RNC. And I watched a grassroots call with the political head and the communications head of the RNC. And they seemed like nice people, but I don't think they knew who I was. And that was kind of like weird, you know, because I'm probably like one of the most outspoken political pollsters. And that was my first clue that like something's not right. I know Gruters follows me, and I talked to Joe, and he was very cordial. And we didn't have much time to talk, but I was trying to catch him up with what I thought I saw were the changing political landscape. I think he's very new to the job and has still got a lot to learn. And I think he came in and has made some positive changes, because I think that this call they did felt like it was his thing, but I don't know. Like I couldn't really pick up on the context. I wasn't there long enough. But what was weird is on the call, and I assume the political and comms guy have been there longer than Joe Gruters has, is that it was talking to grassroots organizers. And he's like, well, we're going to grow this and we're going to get more grassroots people. I'm like, okay, cool. That's good. But when they were talking, how they talked about the off cycle election didn't feel right to me. It was like, well, we're only down a little bit on the generic ballot. You know, we're only down like 3 points. And yeah, it would have been better if we had done better, but nobody expected us to do well. And it's like, oh, they all kind of did. And then this isn't that bad of a wipeout. I mean, this just brings us back to our 2012 baseline. It's like, okay, your 2012 baseline was Romney. That should be warning bells right there. You basically got a Romney turnout. So then they were like, well, you know, we have the winning message and we have the right platform and everything's in place. So we just need to vote harder and turn out harder. And we're definitely going to get more votes, and we're going to win. And, you know, it's like, I guess that's what you tell your grassroots team, but it didn't feel right. And I don't know, I just don't do that. I don't sugarcoat things. I can see why they might need to. I would have been like, I can't do that. Have somebody else do that. And then they all left at like 4 p.m., 4:30. And, you know, it was like a Tuesday, I guess. No, it was a Monday. It was Monday. And I don't know what happens on Capitol Hill. You know what was weird is that every time I've seen the GOP logo online, the star's always been upside down, but all of the logos in the building, the stars were right side up. I was like, well, that's weird. Maybe it's just the Berenstain effect. I don't know. Nobody seemed to notice though. But if you look at Google for the GOP logo right now, Google's got all these pictures of the star upside down. It's just weird. Maybe like Google's trying to make the GOP look satanic in the Google images. I don't get it. But they didn't really want my feedback. Like I said hi and everybody left. Okay. And I'm, again, the cheapest pollster in the industry and was the most accurate in the fall. And I just thought that I might be able to help them more. And we didn't make it work. I guess I have a connection now. Like, again, I'm not a Republican. I'm not doing this out of party loyalty at all. I was meeting with people I thought who'd be interested in my help. And, you know, they kind of weren't. So that's the RNC. Now, there's like a whole lot of other things happening, like that I've talked to people who have worked with local RNC. Not good. A lot of grassroots people who accuse the RNC of throwing elections and harvesting donor money. A lot of MAGA people who are running against establishment candidates that somehow got the Trump endorsement. And specifically, I'll talk about it more with Rich, but he's been talking to some of these local GOP leaders who have been trying to do the right thing, but are finding that the RNC data isn't up to snuff and that the RNC database doesn't include things they really need to do a good turnout the vote effort, and that people are getting dismayed because they go and volunteer for door knocking and everybody's slamming the door in their face because they're definitely Democrat voters. Like it's not good. And this is not my strength area. I'm not like a campaign consultant, like get out the vote guy. Like I can do the research and I'll help you and I can craft messaging and stuff like that. Rich has done more of this than me. I don't know if he knows the whole stack either. Like John Fawcett probably knows more about this stuff than I do. But I feel like the Democrats have an asymmetrical advantage here. And it would appear to match the type of advantage we saw in states like New Jersey, where Mikey Sherrill turned out 90% of the Harris vote, but Jack Ciattarelli only turned out 70% of the Republican vote. And we know there were counties like Bill Spadia and his group focused on Ocean County. Ocean County turned out strong. Same thing happened in certain parts of Long Island. So we know there are people that have this capability. The problem is they aren't centralized, nationalized, funded, and broadly applied. The Republican Party's got 359 days to make that work. And I've already been talking about it for like weeks. So then I went to War Room and hung out with Steve a lot. I got to show up Monday night for a little bit of time and then hung out with Steve for a while. Then I went to Butterworth's. It was kind of cool. That's Raheem Kassam's sort of like conservative restaurant. Never been there before. I went to actually to a Paul Dans fundraiser and met Paul Dans. He's the guy that's running for South Carolina Senate against Lindsey Graham. It was fun. I met some cool people there. And then the next day, I co-hosted War Room with Steve for like an hour and a half. We talked a lot about the fourth turning, about Christianity. It was fun. That was yesterday morning. And then we took this picture. And I actually have a different picture. This is the whole studio. I wasn't sure what to expect, but they got a pretty cool setup. You know, Steve sits here in the lower right, and I'm standing behind like where the guest seat is. And they got a lot of good tech, but what was kind of wild to me is that Steve does this all without a teleprompter. And I don't mean a teleprompter to feed him words, but I'm looking at a teleprompter right now. I'm looking at StreamYard so I can see everything. I can see what's going on the screen. But he just stares at a camera. And he's got his monitor over there on the left where you can see everything. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's done thousands of hours of TV staring into that little black circle. It's like, we told some Navy Sea stories. He's a movie producer. He was telling about movies he produced, like The Fourth Turning, and he did a whole movie about Admiral Rickover, which was really cool. I pitched him a submarine movie. We're going to talk about it. But then we went to, let me see if I can pull these people up, Conservative Partnership Institute. And Steve had a really high regard of this group. I had never heard about them, but these are the people that I actually went into DC to meet. They graciously hosted me for a lunch event where I got to speak. And how these people were explained to me is apparently they're affiliated with Mark Meadows. I don't really know that much about them, but they are a place for conservative staffers on the Hill to like network and learn. I don't know what else they do. I really don't know much about the organization. I quite frankly haven't been back that long, so I hadn't had a chance to really like dig into them. I really kind of went into it cold. And Steve said, listen, these people are the kind of people who watch War Room, so just give them both barrels. So I gave a lunch speech, and the bar was low. They said, well, like most pollsters are boring, so just don't be boring. So I redefined my goals as I said, well, my standards is that I want to offend everybody in the room. And so I just kind of like dumped it all on them in a cold bucket of water of, well, there's a complete shift in politics and y'all are going to get left behind and you are not prepared for this new generation. They don't give a crap about conservative values. Their entire society is fragmented in some ways and coalescing in other ways around basically a power vacuum. And the right is completely complacent and ignoring this, and the left is already embracing it. And it was like a pretty packed event. They were happy at the turnout. So I guess people wanted to hear this message, or maybe they knew about me. And people were engaged. I got a lot of good questions. I met some people after. So I was impressed. The message felt kind of alien to me, though. Like it was kind of the first time that a lot of people were hearing this. And that's kind of weird, like, because this is, I guess, a think tank. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the issue, is that conservatism in Washington, D.C. is very resistant to change. And I present a compelling case that there's a lot of change coming. And I don't know, like maybe I made people have heart palpitations or whatever. But what was wild to me, and this one is the one that I'm still scratching my head about, is that, again, my Twitter account isn't that big. It's like 130,000 followers, but I was ranked 2,000 in the world last week for engagement. And so if I follow somebody, like I'll see their stuff, I can boost their stuff, I can get them a lot of followers. I do that all the time. If people post my replies, I boost them up. I get people followers. I want to try and grow people who are interested in public opinion. And I said, hang around after the event. I will follow you back on Twitter. 2 people showed up out of like 40, 20 somethings that are conservative staffers on the Hill. And so, in my opinion, that was weird. These people aren't really fighting the info war. Their core supporter owns Twitter now. Like they are all over Twitter. Conservative movement is literally forming itself online. I got the feeling that there were some Fuentes adjacent people in the crowd. Really, nobody had heard about the fourth turning. It was kind of weird. Like it was just new. I could tell that people were appalled at the fact that they were now learning that the Overton window is actually moving left on most things, and that Gen Z is clamoring for essentially a dictator. These were all very new concepts for them. Maybe some of them have Twitter accounts and they just didn't want me to follow them, and now they follow me and they'll learn this stuff. That could be, I don't know. But what I was told by somebody I know in the DOJ is that a lot of these people have ambitions and want to rise to the ranks of being in the cabinet someday or working in one of these agencies. And I was told that the issue is you need to be Senate confirmable, and nobody wants a bad tweet being pulled up in front of them in front of the Senate. So I guess the good news is that means I will never, ever work for administration, because the stuff I've said on Twitter is like ridiculous. But again, this is the fourth turning. And if you look at national elected leadership, it's like 60% boomers. And it's probably even higher among the Republican Party. It's probably like 70%. In 10 years, it's going to be 70% basically Gen X, mostly millennials, and some Zoomers. And so is Senate going to even care about bad tweets anymore? Is that even going to be a thing? Probably not, because you got Pete Hegseth through with the Deus Volt tattoo. That's probably worse than anything I've said on Twitter. Maybe not. I don't know. It's weird, though. They're like not in the info war with you, not even with burner accounts. They could have come up to me with an anonymous frog account and I would have followed them back and helped them get more followers. So there's this aspect of like Washington, D.C., especially the Republicans, doesn't feel the MAGA movement. They're like flying blind. So, all right, let me catch up with chats and then we'll go into the polling I wanted to cover on socialism. Hope that was like helpful for people. Again, a bit of a wake-up call for me. But I learned, and it's not bad. It's not all bad. The Republican Party, however, needs to change. I didn't get the feeling from people I talked to that they were resisting change. It's that they weren't necessarily fully read in on how it's right at their doorstep and how big of an opportunity it is. That's the thing. I'm trying to convince them there's an opportunity, because if they can deliver on pragmatic economic populism and government reform, they can be in office for a really, really long time.